I'd like to bring the Town of Rome Board meeting
Get rid of some of the wood.
to order for Thursday, April 6, 2023, 5 o'clock. Number 2, roll call from the left.
Jamadi here.
Minter here.
Asdell here.
Goldman here.
Bauerheit here.
Number 3, certified posting of the meeting, please.
I certify that on Monday, April 3rd, 2023, the agenda for the Town of Rome Board meeting for Thursday, April 6th, 2023 was emailed to the Wisconsin Rapids Tribune at 3:36 p.m., posted at Rome Town Hall at 3:45 p.m., at Quick Trip LLC at 3:55 p.m., and Nakusa Port Edward State Bank at 4 p.m.
Thank you. Number 4, going to get a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve today's agenda.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Number 5, please stand for Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 6, citizen comments. Did we have any comments turned in?
No.
Number 7, information updates, meeting recaps, recent correspondence, current events, and announcements. Lori, do you have anything?
No, thank you.
Dan?
I have nothing.
I got one thing, just a reminder, it's kind of a little far out, but May 20th, Dove's Nest will have their fundraiser at Camelot Lodge. It's a very worthy cause, and just want to make sure everybody's aware of it. They are always looking for volunteers. So if you could, leave that date open, May 20th. Dan?
I have nothing.
Bob?
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate Dan Minner, Lori DiGiovanni, and Jackie Crow for their recent election.
Thank you.
You're up.
So included in tonight's packet was our flyer for the Rome Spring Cleanup. One event already happened out at at Twin Lakes. We have to do that one earlier because of the level of the dam in order to clean up the shoreline. So that happened this past weekend, and we had 5 volunteers. The next 2 are on May 20th. So before you go to the fundraiser at Camelot, if you want to come either to Rome Realty or Lakes Area Christian Fellowship Church, we'll be organizing groups to do State Highway 13, Alpine. We also hope to do Apache that day. So spring cleanup for the town of Rome. If you help on May 20th, Visit Rome has graciously sponsored lunch after you're done cleaning up, and everybody that volunteers gets their name put into a drawing for a $100 donation to the charity of their choice. So, also incentives to volunteer for that day. So Supervisor Jamadi, Supervisor Minter, and I last week joined the Wisconsin Towns Association for their Capital Day and advocated on a series of items, including road GTA, increasing the GTA allocation, utilizing some of the surplus funds to assist towns with projects, and for a revision of the shared revenue formula. I will send you all of what they call the town tidbit papers that were shared by WTA for those events. But we met with Representative Krug and Senator Teston on that day with other representatives from our area. And then yesterday, I attended the Central Wisconsin Days with Synergy, which is our 5-county area that advocates for economic development within those 5 counties. We met with 4 legislators on a team of 5, and I'll also send you their 3 advocacy items. They were childcare, housing, and also a revision to that shared revenue formula and tax reform. So I'll send those both. I'll send those out to the whole board. It's a lot of individual papers, but good reading when you have a moment.
Jamie, can I just add something that I forgot when we were doing the announcements related to what you just said? If you are interested in making comments to the Joint Finance Committee, there will be a comment session in the Dells at the Wilderness Resort next Wednesday, the 12th. Starts at 10, but they said get there early to register. You can speak for 2 minutes. And there's also an online form that you can make online comments if you don't feel like driving down to the Dells to sit around to make a 2-minute in-person comment. Off the top of my head, I do not remember that online form address, but I'm sure if you Googled Wisconsin Joint Finance Committee comments, something would come up online.
And I can also forward that as part of the email with all of these issue papers. They give good topics to.
Senator Teston has it on his website because he's on the Joint Finance Committee, so, and I was gonna get you that form, but I forgot to bring it with me tonight, so. You know what time we're leaving.
I also just wanted to share a bit of good news that I got today, but we'll put this in a future town board packet. But I did get final cost numbers from We Energies regarding our 2 gas line expansion projects. Again, we had approved up to $85,000 to help fund the project on Aspen Avenue and the project on Apache Avenue. The project on Aspen Avenue has come back and they will be charging the town $75 to complete that project. So they did have some additional people that signed on, and they had some favorable pricing. So that project will be moving forward. They will be doing some on-site storage at the transfer site, like they did with the last project. So that was very exciting news. The Apache project. The town's portion will be $46,499.60. Again, we will have the next 5 years to potentially recoup that cost if someone signs on. But again, we committed up to $85,000, and it's going to cost us about $46,515. So, very exciting news that those 2 projects are going forward. And then I'll do it here, and when we talk about it later, reminder that our next meeting is a Tuesday. It's the annual meeting, so it's Tuesday, April 18th. The annual meeting starts at 6, but the listening session is from 4 to 6. There are a variety of options to participate in the listening section, and one of those would be providing direct input to the town board. So from 4 to 6, listening session, 6 o'clock, annual meeting. Those are all my items.
That's it? All right. Number 8, discussion and action, approval of the March 16th, 2023 meeting minutes. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion to approve is printed.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Number 9, discussion and possible action, approval of the 2023 various town asphaltic pavement projects bids for Meadow Lane, Campfire Lane, Locust, Hickory, Hemlock Trails, Canterbury, Chester, Lincoln, Sheffield, Newmarket, Pine Court, and East Walden Way.
So these next 2 agenda items will dovetail together. There is a memo in your packet from Brad. We'll invite Brad to come up to the podium as we talk through this memo packet. In addition to the memo and the bids that were provided by American Asphalt, there's also the description for Pacer rating, and the Pacer ratings included in the packet. And we're also fortunate tonight that we have John here from American Asphalt. So John his company, and because that's who would be recommending through the bid process, would be completing that. So we would also be able to ask him questions this evening.
As you'll see that in the packet, you have the 2-page summary of kind of what we put together. I'll skip ahead basically to the recommendation at this point, and we can come back if we need to ask any questions on the rest of it. But the gist of this is, as everyone has seen, that Apache Avenue from 13 to Highway Z has taken a drastic decrease in the past 6 months. Total length of that is 4 miles, and at the current cost to pave that would be about $1.4 million, which obviously we don't have in the funds. This year we have about $665,000 in the funds after we take out the portion that we need to have set aside for our BIL Apache Avenue project. So after looking through some things and considerations, our suggestion is to base course pulverize pave Apache Avenue from 6,000 feet to the west, which would bring us to the old entrance to the transfer site. By doing it there, it would allow us to keep the transfer site open if we had to, or alternate access if we needed that. And that cost would be that $405,541. And then take that balance that's left of approximately the $260,000 and I would say carry that over, but use that next year to help offset the cost of doing the rest of Apache Avenue from that point all the way down to Highway Z, which would roughly, at this year's cost, be about a total of $761,000.
We just also point out that I wanted Brad to include in the packet, we do have a semi-load of mastic. It's what you see in those containers out there by Building 3. What those roads would be that would still be receiving mastic this year, which would be 14th Avenue from Akron Avenue north to Adams, Akron Drive from 7th Avenue west, and West Walden Way from County Road D to its termination, which would be another 3.64 miles. We could potentially, he's got the cost in here, 32,000, we could potentially purchase another semi-load of mastic and maybe do 2 semi-loads of mastic this year. That would also increase what we would be completing in road construction. But we still have the Apache project from 8th to 10th that's going to be done as part of the grant. And then the Apache project from State Highway 13 to the transfer site through the old entrance of the transfer site. And then that mastic, which would bring up total road miles being worked on this year to 6.78. And this somewhat relates to the next agenda item, but and is one of the reasons why John is here. If we did proceed with the paving of Apache, American could get that done fairly quickly.
We're still on board with this. They could start next Tuesday, the 11th, with the pulverizing base course, and then Wednesday, the 19th. The 17th, Wednesday, 17th, start the paving.
Is that starting at 8th Avenue and going west?
No, this is the Apache from 13 to,
The transfer site?
yeah. That portion of Apache, they're looking at sometime in June possibly, is what we've heard.
May now, I just
May.
spoke with
Okay.
I would assume the passer ratings on Apache are extremely dismal at this point.
Well, you gotta remember, the ratings that were handed out in your packet are 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What would
so-
you call it now, though?
I'd have to go and do a summary, but yes, it is definitely low.
When you do those ratings, is it taken into consideration when the road was built? Because you mentioned it was built in 1997. We've got 9 years use on it that probably didn't expect, but is that taken into consideration?
No, you just look at what basic pacer ratings basically we can physically see on the road.
How about the pacer ratings on these items? Are all these other ones here are in better shape, I would say, than Apache?
Off the 2021 numbers,
Yeah, yeah. Or current, if you know.
let's just eliminate the pacer ratings, but under current conditions, Apache is in worse shape than what those other roads are.
Yeah, I would agree. That what I've seen. I've looked at a couple of them. I agree with you.
But these would be between 3s and 5s,
Yeah, less than 5s.
less than 5s.
Another question too, are the ARPA funds for the We Energies, do we have a $39,000 carryover?
We could potentially put some, I wrote those numbers down, hold on.
We got 75 cents coming back, so that was 39,000 still sitting out there, right?
We had 67,000 left to spend because we did get the 17,000 back. I'm rounding these numbers.
Yep.
And so let's say you have about 20. You have another 20,000 in there.
Would that help? Might help towards another trailer, right?
Yes, and with that extra semi-load of mastic, I kind of want to be a little bit patient on that because we had to order salt. We went through last salt this year. Actually, the rest of our delivery came in last week. We got about 40,000 in salt, and then in the fall we have to take in basically another 20 to 30,000. The state hasn't finalized their contract as to what the price is going to be, but you had to place your order already. Now, the last couple of years have been just under $100 a ton. let's hope it stays that route, but I want to see for sure what the number's gonna be before we start buying another load of mastic, just make sure I got money in the budget to cover that.
Yeah. Have
Thank
you
you for
heard,
the reminder on
have you heard back from any of the legislators we talked about, Van Orden and Krug and anything? Anything?
So what we would hear back from our state legislators would come through the budget, right? And what the real specific ask was to take the GTA to 10%. So that's still a hopeful. We did, through general engineering, apply with Van Orden for some grant funding, and we haven't heard back on that one yet.
Well, it's still a possibility, maybe this year.
Yeah.
Probably for next year, though.
Brad, if you did order a second load of mastic, would you have enough personnel and labor to spread that all during this year?
We would find a way, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So the last overlay on Apache was done 2018? 17?
All I know is the last time that was paved was in 96, 97.
Full paving, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm
There might have
just,
been a chip seal done after that at some point in time, but
I'm just beside myself. I know that from 8th to 10th has been deteriorating, and that should have been redone long ago. We know it's expensive, it's getting done. Traffic is up to the west of 13, but for the whole road to just fall apart the way that it did, is there something wrong with the chip seal job that was done?
it just, most roads, if you remember in the packet, maybe 2 meetings ago, you're lucky if you get 18 years out of a road. As a road sits out and it gets exposed to sun, water, different elements, your oil starts breaking down. And that's what basically is happening there. The oil's breaking down, it's not holding the aggregate together anymore, and it's crumbling apart. It's served us well at close to 30 years.
I remember last October, I went to the transfer site and it was fine. Then November, December, the weather just killed it. Yeah, it was amazing.
And actually, if you want to look further, go from Apache, from 15th
Oh, yeah.
down to Z.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
That
Yeah.
is,
Shot, both sides.
yes, that's probably actually in worse shape than what is up by the transfer site.
Yeah.
But because of traffic,
I think this
I
speaks.
know we're going to get to this on the next item when we talk about approval of this, but I, for one, would be in favor of taking out a loan and finishing Apache all the way to Z this year, and then next year we would have some additional funds to attack some of our secondary roads that also need help.
The only thing I would point out with taking out a loan now is that your interest rate is gonna be very
I
high.
understand that, but
They're gonna
if
keep-
the interest rates go down enough, we could refinance it too.
And they're gonna keep going up.
Yeah, they're not going to come down anytime soon, I realize that.
They're gonna keep going up and up and up, and we can do that through the state. They have a state program
Those interest rates are still high.
at 4.4%.
I think they're more than that at this moment.
They were only 4% last year when we could have done it, but in hindsight, I mean, I happen to agree with Supervisor Bauer-Height. We need to look at something and do all of Apache, because I think doing just one portion of it and then doing another portion and waiting,
It just takes away money from next year's budget too
and
that
then it
could
wears
be
down.
applied.
Right, and then it wears down, and then this part isn't equally wearing with this part, and then this part isn't equally wearing with this part. It's like, do the whole thing, and that's the way we used to repair our roads, is one entire road at a time. And when you're taking 4s and 5s and letting them go another year, that means the next year, they're gonna be a 3 and a 4. And then your 6s and 7s are gonna be 4s and 5s, and we're just getting that much further behind. And as you said, when we were at the state, they were showing already how towns are getting further and further behind. And doing Apache like this, I appreciate the effort you put into this, but I think we are just putting ourselves that much further behind the 8 ball, and I agree, we should do all of Apache and be done.
And then I'd go one step further. If we are going to consider taking out a loan to do Apache, I would consider taking out a loan to do Apache plus whatever it's about $123,000 over what we had budgeted for those other the previous road projects that we had, the metal lanes and that list. When you look at borrowing, difference of borrowing 1.4 million versus borrowing 1.5, 1.55, it's not, yes, it's a significant chunk of money, but I always think about these big projects, think about, what would happen at our homes. If we had some major thing go wrong at our home, we're not gonna necessarily be able to pay cash for the thing. We're probably gonna have to have some sort of a loan. similar here. We have an unexpected deterioration of this road that we weren't expecting, coupled with astronomically high asphalt prices, through a number of reasons on that, that I guess I just think if we're gonna take out the loan, I don't think we should put off the projects that we had scheduled. We should borrow the money to pave Apache and make sure that we can cover the difference on those other projects, because they were obviously, they were felt to be of great need prior to the deterioration of Apache. And I just would be in favor of putting the whole lump together and doing it all. What we had planned plus Apache. Then we'll stay on schedule, plus Apache stuff.
No, your schedule will go down because now you got a payment of $150,000 a year over a 10-year period minimum.
That would go into increasing the levy, so we could,
Well, that's your other option, is that you would have to increase the levy, otherwise your other projects are gonna get put behind. You're gonna take.
yeah, but I think the thing of it is, that the longer we put it off, the worse situation we're gonna find ourselves in.
Well, the repairs you could do this year with the mastic might last, maybe not, I don't know.
But you have to also look at what the mastic is really intended for, and are we using it properly? Because the holes that they've already started to fill in the cold patching they're doing isn't holding up. It's already being displaced, so something's going on with the weather, something's going on with the road, something's wrong with the base, so.
And
there's
cold
an-
patching is not the same as mastic too.
And I understand that.
We understand cold patching is a patch, right?
It's just a
Right.
temporary thing.
Yeah.
It's a-
Tenth.
It's, everything that we're doing is temp, and are we spinning our wheels and wasting our money? And so that's a concern too. And so is it an overall good plan? Plus, we need to get these ratings in a place where, that they're accurate, and that takes a big inspection job to be done. So I don't know that this is really truly solving the whole issue with Apache.
Do you feel that our pacers are not accurate?
Not all of them, no, I do not agree that they're all accurate.
Well, they're 2 years old, right?
Well, they will be done again this fall. They will be complete, they're always completed on odd years, so we're getting close to them getting completed again.
I think the condition that they were in this past year, maybe that it was a sign that maybe we should have had an opportunity to maybe have even North Central Regional Planning come out and do it for free. If they don't do it for free anymore, it's something that we maybe need to do on our own. I don't know. But I'm just stating that it needs to be updated.
North Central does still offer the service for free, but they don't visit the community. They use a mathematical equation. They will look at roads that they know were deteriorating or that they had concerns on, but they do not visit every road in a community. Brad visits every road in town. He drives every road in town.
Are you comfortable that these ratings are representative of our roads?
Yes.
I'm good.
Ratings aside, I mean, if our winters persist like they are now, these roads have no chance of standing up to this type of abuse, right? So it's a long-term problem for the town. What's facing us right now is Apache. Nobody's expecting that to go the way it went this winter. It's a big problem. It's a major east-west road in town. We should do everything we can to right that problem, my opinion.
You do also have a loan that's paid off it's at the end of next year, but that would get paid off December 2024. And I think that's a $1.9 million loan that would get paid off next year.
If we have to look at something else in the budget and I don't know, find something that we have to cut corners on or save somewhere else or use undesignated funds somewhere, we'll find the money.
And I just want to point out with the piece in the budget, right now, a mile of road came in at about $330,000, right? So it's,
That was 400.
well, this is slightly over a mile, but I mean, if you average it out, you're about 330,000 a mile of road. So that's not just buying less paper. That's,
I get that,
yeah,
Jamie.
it's
and
big.
that's kind of-
It's big
I
stuff.
get it's not buying less paper, but.
I just want to prepare the board for,
We understand
Those are-
we understand what the undertaking is,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, what comes first? Do we make a
Okay.
motion to borrow the money and then we make?
Can
a
I make a suggestion? We consider the 6,000 foot of Apache, and then get the numbers together, go out, find out what a loan costs and what it would cost every year and how we would take care of it, come back to your next meeting and handle it that way. You're waiting 2 weeks, but
Well-
I think that's worthwhile to find out exactly what you're talking.
What's our window with American Asphalt? Because you guys only have so much time.
Could even do it.
We are for sure gonna be back in the area in May.
Do you just want to come up to the mic, just so those that might watch the meeting at home could also hear?
Thank you.
So though we may be able to finish the first 6,000 feet of Apache early this year, we will be back in May doing work for Sand Valley as well as the east side of Apache. We could tie the rest of the road in with that point, so I don't foresee any sort of scheduling issues other than we just might have to do them slightly separate, so.
If we were to do all of Apache, would you also still foresee the probability that you also could do these other projects as well, given what you all have going on with overall with everything you're doing?
I would
Not
have.
just for us, but for everybody that
I
you
would
pay.
have to check to see our major projects. We are not quite as busy as last year, but still quite busy with DOT work and all of our other areas. I would just have to make sure that we weren't gonna be getting shortchanged on trucking and equipment or our crews, so I'd have
If
to
we
get an
waited 2
updated schedule.
weeks- I'm sorry. If we waited 2 weeks to make that second part of that, second and third parts of that decision, do you think you could have that answer in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I don't think that would be an issue at all.
Your bid expires April 5th, 2023. That, the bids that you currently have expire April 5th, 2023.
We would be willing to extend them. We have a short time frame on those right now, just because of some of the fluctuations on oil prices, but the prices will stand.
The other questions I would have is that with the bid process, you said you opened bids on a certain date in March. What other companies did bid, and what were the bids? And if we do all of Apache, would those numbers change and come in differently because we're doing more road?
So
Could we potentially get different numbers?
we only did, correct me if I'm wrong, we only did asphalt projects this year, right? Because you guys did all that chip sealing last year with the ARPA funds. So it was only paving, and I believe only American,
Only American put a bid in.
yeah. So you
Well,
only
that's the
received
only
one bid.
bid you opened,
No, that's the only bid we received.
received.
Only bid received.
Okay.
All bids that would have been received would have been opened, but we only received a bid from American.
Is there a reason why nobody else bid?
I don't know. I don't know if it was workload or,
Well, maybe, John, are there other players in the game?
In this area, I don't think ran into anyone other than I think Scott's has come up 2 years ago when I was just starting with American, so I can't say.
So there's a reason, is there a reason why, is there a reason why Scott's wouldn't have bid this time?
I can't answer that question.
So if we
They were
would
sent all
change,
the information.
pardon?
They were sent everything and they chose not to bid.
So if we would change the project, and I don't mean you any disrespect by asking these questions, but we have to be smart with the money we have. Would that change the project, you know, being all of Apache now, more miles, I mean. Well,
My guess is it wouldn't, if they didn't want to bid the first time, I don't think they were going to bid on another 2.5 miles of road, or 3 miles of road, 4 miles of road. All right.
One other thing on the loan, are the payments in advance or arrears? Any idea?
We would set up a schedule with whoever we would work with. If loan was the way that we would go, likely what would happen is, provided that they're open tomorrow for the holiday, I would reach out to Ellers and we would start to put together a plan of what we would be doing for lending. It is for sure gonna change your levy, right? And I would just want them to also do the calculation of how that would affect levy.
I think
Because-
that's smart, yes.
Previously, when we've done borrowing, we've paid off a borrow and then we've re-borrowed, so we stay level. You're gonna make a bump if you add another loan here, and I'd like to have that conversation with Ellers, what that bump looks like.
I agree.
Can I just add one thing? I'm not an accountant, and I'll never claim to be one. But let's just, before we look at taking a loan, let's make sure we're careful that, like Chairman said, it's gotta be paid back at some point in time. I hate to spend a bunch of money now, and then the next couple of years, we don't have as much to do, and the price of asphalt's going up, we only do a half mile a year because of what asphalt's gonna be, and then we really aren't gaining anything.
No, the levy's the next question mark.
For this agenda item, maybe a suggestion then would be to table it until the next meeting, till more information would be brought back. And then you could consider on agenda item number 10, if you wanted to proceed at least with the paving of the 6,000 feet, excuse me.
So we table 9, bring, table 9. Yeah, but they can pave next week.
But I think one thing, I don't speak for John, but I don't think they're gonna wanna come in next week and pave that, and then if we decide in 2 weeks we wanna do the rest of it, come back, they wanna be able to do it all in
Gonna
one
get
run.
a-
If we're doing all the patchy, they wanna do it all at once, not,
Okay.
You're gonna get a nicer finish to the road too.
Correct.
Somebody wanna try a motion? Do we have to announce 10, or can we just go ahead, or? how do
You would
wanna
have
do
to
it?
make action on both.
Yeah, it's
Do we do 'em
agenda
both?
item, so you'd read agenda item 10, but you haven't disposed of number 9.
Haven't
unless
finished
there's
9 yet.
Okay,
No action taken.
yep. So no action taken on 9 at this point? Anybody? Number 10, discussion and possible action, approval of 2023 asphaltic pavement bids for Apache Avenue from State Highway 13 west 6,000 feet through the first transfer site driveway off Apache Avenue.
I would move that we postpone item 10 to the next agenda. So we have more information.
More information, meaning completing Apache all the way to Z.
That's correct.
More information on what a loan would cost you and the payback, yes.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? So nobody wants to start Apache next week?
If they can accommodate it in their schedule and a break of a few weeks before they start another road or a month or the other half of it, that's no big deal. But that means you're making the decision to forego the other roads right now. Which we just said there's no action on.
Well, then, yeah, I don't think we should forestall doing every bit of Apache that we can do right now. I think we should do that.
How does that work out in your schedule? If the first 6,000 aren't included now, and then you're looking at the whole thing down the road?
I would have to take a detailed look at exactly when we'd be coming back, based off of our plant schedule for, the other side of Apache. It would prolong its start date probably till after then.
Is it possible to make a motion to approve this 6,000 feet, knowing that you have the funds for it, but just put in, as part of the motion that you would ask American Asphalt to wait to do the paving until they completed the other side of Apache? That would give you your time frame to, would that be amenable? That you wouldn't,
We could also, since it's a 3-inch road, we can pave the binder layer sooner, have paved surface down, and then wait for the surface layer until after a decision has been made on the rest of Apache, to allow for less cold joints on the surface.
so this would be done in a lift, like one and then the next?
Correct.
But you wouldn't do that until, if there was a delay in the decision, you wouldn't do that until you were doing the other portion of Apache, right?
Correct.
So you wouldn't want to mobilize twice.
Correct. We would mobilize twice if it meant that we could potentially keep the surface all the same.
I will say for the best construction practice for that road is you really don't want to do one end and then go and do the other, because most of their trucks are going to come off of Highway 13. So if you put the binder down first then you decide to do the rest of it, all the trucks are gonna run on that binder, an inch and a half. If you're gonna do it best way, you can start on the west end and work your way back to the east.
So then we're back to our original thing, which is that we postpone this decision for 2 weeks till we have all the financial details of what it would cost to borrow the money to do the whole thing. That's sort of what I'm hearing you say, Brad. I know you're not speaking.
What I'm saying is, I came with a plan based off the money I had in my budget.
I know you did.
So that's
We're
what.
trying to find you more money.
No, I'll take as much as you want to get me, as long as we do it within reasonable.
Right. So would it be more reasonable then, in your opinion, if we were to delay till the next board meeting, approximately 2 weeks from now, a little less, and then it could be done logically, as you just stated, where they'd start on the west end and they'd work their way up to 13, so that the heavy trucks and that are not running across the new
Yes.
underlayment, binder, whatever you call that stuff.
Yep.
Which I think is what which I think is the motion that's on the floor.
American Asphalt, do you guys agree that that's better?
I'm ultimately trying to keep the loaded trucks off of the
Binder?
binder is best. We would be running trucks on it regardless. To do the surface, we're running the trucks on the binder. But it would add a little bit more traffic onto that last 6,000 feet.
The added trucks you actually have is, if you have the binder down though, then we pulverize in base course, all the trucks hauling that base course on there is gonna be running across that binder.
That's correct, yes.
Are you bringing this asphalt out of Rapids? Did the plant open back up?
It would be coming from our hind pit, which would be coming off of, regardless of coming off of 13.
Coming down Highway 13 with trucks loaded.
But where are you bringing the asphalt from? Where's the asphalt plant?
It is, I guess it's technically Hancock. It's right off of 39.
So I do think there's a motion and a second on the floor.
Yes, there is.
Any further discussion? Can you repeat the motion?
To move number 10 to the next agenda for more information on what loan and project would cost.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
One no, motion carried.
Okay.
I'm sorry, mine was present, should have been present. Number 11, discussion of possible action, approval to dispose of 17 National Fire Protection Agency, NFPA, non-compliant self-contained breathing apparatus, SCBA's, through donation.
So there was a memo in your packet from Chief Kane. Now that we have the new SCBA's, the ones that we currently have that are non-compliant can be donated. There isn't really a reason to surplus these because since they're non-compliant, there isn't another fire department that would want them. We have had a conversation with the two that are noted in the memo. Wisconsin Nicaragua Partners would be happy to accept them and would send them over to Nicaragua. And then 2 units to Neiman's Towing. They've been really good partners with us and would like to, for if they have people on the ground waiting to move vehicles or to take vehicles after fire scenes.
Move to approve the donation of the 11 outdated SCBA units, 2 to Neiman Towing, and the remainder, the other 9 to the Wisconsin Nicaragua Partners.
Two to Neiman's Towing.
Yep, and then 9, right? Because there's 11 of them?
There's 17 of
Oh,
them.
sorry, 15. So 2 to Neiman Towing, 15 to the Wisconsin Nicaragua Partners.
I second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Number 12, discussion of possible action, approval of resolution number 23, approving revisions to the Town of Rome fee schedule.
There was a resolution in the packet. What's indicated on red would be the additions to the fee schedule under zoning. These are just licenses, permits that haven't previously been included in our fee schedule, but need to be for either things that have occurred through Plan Commission or are anticipated to come to Plan Commission.
I had a question. It's showing campground license. Do we have anything in our comprehensive plan that allows for a campground?
Campgrounds would be allowed in any FR zoning, like
FR?
Wisconsin Trap Shooters is FR zoning and has the campground. And you just approved an additional one, it's that 4 spots that's behind Romano's.
The one at 25, gotcha.
So didn't we already have a campground license?
So we don't have the fee in our schedule.
Right.
That's the thing.
That's what we don't have.
Yeah, so, and that's a good question, and segue, just to give a general overview, just so you know where that fee is proposed to be for the mobile tower siting permit. Like campground licenses, we have a mobile tower siting permit, section in our zoning code, that's in, Article 24 of 360. Just to explain, give you an overview, and anybody else that's watching, what the difference of those are, in case you're not familiar with mobile tower siting. So there's 2 different classifications, really tiers of these. One tier is a new tower and a type 1 co-location. Technically 2 different things, and I'll explain what those are. The other tier is the type 2 co-location. So a new tower, that's self-explanatory, right? Type 1 co-location, the difference between a type 1 and a type 2. Type 1 is going to be what's termed substantial modification, okay, to a tower. So that's where somebody is co-locating on a tower, but there's something substantially being modified. Either they're increasing the height of the tower, increasing the width of the tower, or maybe modifying the project area. A type 2 co-location is not substantially modifying the tower, rather they're maybe leasing some space on the tower and putting another antenna, but it's not substantially modifying. I give all that background because then you may look and say, okay, there's the same cost associated with them. Well, a type 1 and new tower is going to require a number of other permits or approvals, okay? A type 1 or new tower is going to require a conditional use permit, number 1, possibly a permit to do work in the right-of-way, and so there could be additional requirements. If it's a new tower, there might also be a rezoning that is required, perhaps. With a type 2, it's an administrative review. It's not a conditional use permit. And so, in other words, if I was coming and wanted to do a new tower or a type 1 co-location, I would need to, number 1, submit the permit form for the mobile tower siting. I'm also going to have to do a conditional use permit, possibly the road work in the right-of-way. By the time that's all said and done, it's closer to $1,000, probably $750 to $1,000. Okay? Type 2, right, again, not substantially modifying, is just going to be the $100 for every type 2 co-location and an administrative review. Hopefully that's helpful in understanding why the costs are the same on the fee schedule, but understand that somebody coming in for a new tower or a class 1 is going to have far more involved than just that permit. That's just one step of the process that they're going to have to follow.
What if,
Oh, go ahead.
what if they wanted to add a new hut at the bottom to accommodate new antennas that would go up on an existing tower? Is that all included in type 2?
Again, so we'd have to see exactly what they're proposing. What you're proposing is potentially it could be potentially a type 1. It's likely going to be a type 2, but again, we'd have to see what they're proposing. There are standards to what differentiates type 1 and type 2. But if it's going on an existing tower, then it's not a new tower, it's a co-location of some sort.
Right.
The questions I had, well, actually a comment, the fee seems rather modest just to me, so I did a search on just what comparable communities around us, like Grand Rapids has. They have an application fee, which you're their attorney as well. They have an app fee of $50 and then a siting fee of $125. And then they say if there's no fee if a building permit is also required. So I'm wondering, $100 seems kind of modest, and I mean,
For type 2 or type 1?
for both, if I read that correctly, in the town of Grand Rapids.
Well, in the town of Grand Rapids, it's really not much different than the numbers you read off beside the building permit. which
But my question
Building
was,
permit would be required, that's a good point.
right,
In our ordinance, building permit is also required regardless, so I should have mentioned that.
so they'll still pay a building permit fee on top of this $100?
Correct.
Okay,
Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned that, I forgot that, and I apologize.
Thank you.
As far as the other fee, I believe Grand Rapids, it's less, but then they have a review, and I think that review is because they take type 2, I believe, in their ordinance to the plan commission as well. And so some of that review fee is to cover the plan commission review, where this is an administrative review in this town for type 2s, and so that's that difference.
okay.
I mean, it's not that you can't, you certainly could. The difference there is because they take it through the plan commission on those administrative reviews. And it's not that we couldn't amend our ordinance to have that, but right now, we do not take type 2s through the plan commission, we do an administrative review.
Because they've already been through planning commission the first time they were built.
That's correct. Now, I mean, it's a conditional use permit, right? So there could be a condition that actually brings them back. Could be. That would have to be reviewed by the plan commission, but that's the difference is, type 2s, if I recall, the times we've had them in Grand Rapids, they've had to come through the plan commission.
Are there any restrictions on locations where these can go, you know? offhand?
Zoning, yeah, sure. So,
Are there-
yeah, I mean, the simple answer to that, and maybe, I don't mean to oversimplify it, but that's the point where I said, sometimes it could be a rezone too, right? So the restriction on the location is by zoning, because there's only certain zoning districts that allow it.
Okay. Any other questions on this? Can we get a motion, please?
Move to approve the additions to the Town of Rome fee schedule related to the mobile tower siting permits as presented.
Second.
And the campground licenses.
Oh, and the campground licenses, sorry. My printout is in black and white.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Number 13, discussion and possible action, consideration of potential rental of former police department building.
So there was a memo included in your packet. The town was asked by Sand Valley, they had a need for some additional office space. That office space right now is, my understanding, is in the basement of the. Is in the basement of the clubhouse and is needed for something else. So they would like to keep the staff local. They could explore other options, but they had asked the town if we would be willing to consider it. I said that I would put it on a town board agenda and that we could have a conversation. They would like to locate that staff around or before the start of the season, which I think is April 27th, did you say?
April 28th, but I think they would want to do this as soon as they
As soon as they could, yep. The old police department building is a large portion of it is our record storage, and then we do have a fitness room for our staff. We could move the fitness equipment to Station 2. Staff still have access through their key fobs to Station 2 if they wanted to utilize that space as a workout room. And we would have to juggle around some of our record storage. We could do that for a temporary portion of time. This would be temporary until a administrative building was constructed on site at Sand Valley. This isn't a permanent situation.
So what kind of records where would you store these records temporarily? We don't have much room in here.
So we would still save, I don't know that everyone here has been in the old police department, but there are 2 offices, what was the squad room and then a back room. The one of the offices, we would put as many in there as we could. There is a series of assessment files that are over there that we would move to the garage space and we would tarp them for a while. We can get rid of those assessment records after we go through this interim evaluation that we're proceeding, then those assessment files can be disposed of. So we're anticipating that they'll exit storage at town hall. We've been holding on to them for a very long time. By the end of this year or around the end of this year, provided the assessor is also comfortable with that.
How much disruption is that causing the fire department moving the fitness equipment back over there? Because I remember a big fight about that being in there years ago.
Yeah, I had that conversation with Chief Kane. You know, we've been working really hard on the surplus items, so we have some space. Again, the movement of it back over there is with the understanding this is temporary. This is not permanent. So he would be comfortable with that on a temporary basis, just like Chief Labby would be comfortable with a temporary basis, that because there is still storage, police storage in the garage that's in the old PD, with those assessment records moving in for a temporary portion of time.
And how do the employees feel about the access to it going back over to Station 2 when it's right here on the municipal property?
We would work to share out that information. Although it is a resource, it's not heavily used. It is used. It is not heavily used.
Isn't there exercise equipment in the existing new police EMS building?
There is for police and EMS staff, yes.
Yeah.
So, in that case, they would be able to utilize that workout facility in that space.
Not
yes.
bad.
And there's no other facilities in town that are available for space? What kind of inconvenience is this gonna cause staff to be moving things around to make this available? They
So-
said, but they will provide resources?
Yes, they would provide staff to help us to move the records and to move the equipment. They would provide staff.
And now the number one question of the day, what kind of rent are we looking at? I mean, what have they, I mean, we don't have that in our memo here. I mean,
I would tell you that if we would proceed with this, we would do it for something that would be considered fair market. I think that's a conversation with the board on that, but it would be for something that would be a fair market value.
Number
and
one
here's the
question to me-
board, and what's the fair market?
Number one question to me is, would we do this for any business in town?
Yeah. I guess there's other empty buildings in town that maybe they could, but then again, the other side of that conversation is it's sitting empty. We're paying maintenance fees on, I'm just weighing both sides of it. Whose budget is that utilities coming out of, and would that help us pay for that? And then where would the money go that we're getting for the rent? So that's all part of the conversation.
So if Sand Valley would move in there, they would take care of the utilities.
I get that.
Yep, the utilities that right now are low because there's much smaller usage than when it was being used for a police department, and that's put into building and grounds. It's part of the buildings and grounds
But whose
budget.
building and grounds budget is it in?
The buildings and grounds budget. So there's
Whose share of buildings and grounds? Is it still police because it's a police building, or is it general, or is it,
I would consider that all part of the general budget. So they
okay?
are. I do believe Jason still codes those bills that do come in, but it's
Okay,
where would the funds go if it was rented? I think that's a conversation that the board would have to have if you wanted to earmark it for something, or that it would go into the general budget. You'd have to have that
I have an
conversation.
idea for the earmark of the funds from the rental. Earmark it towards the construction of the disc golf course.
well,
I'd rather do that than pay a light bill with it. Just throwing that out there.
bad idea. And there's roads.
Yeah, well, I don't
But I
think.
know, but it's for
Dropping the
something
bucket on the
nice.
road.
I know, we're already, but no, that's a nice idea, but it goes back to the question that Dan had, and
So
Are there other-
how big, how much square footage is the building, is the space that we're talking about, roughly?
I apologize. I'm not super good with that. I don't know exactly, but it's not a huge space. I know that building, I mean, when you look at that building, remember the back half is leased to Solaris and is in a long-term lease with Solaris. So it's 2 offices, a squad room, and a storage area.
So this is a short-term solution for, about how long are we talking and how much rent are we looking at?
I would say potentially a year. Hopefully less, but potentially a year.
Okay,
Can I ask, would this be a month-to-month lease then?
We could go month to month, I would think.
Okay.
Certainly if we're thinking it could potentially be less than a year, month to month makes sense. And I don't think an unreasonable value for that space would be in the $4,000 to $5,000 a month range. If others feel differently, that's why we're having the conversation. The question was asked, it's not for me to answer as staff, that's why it was brought to board. If another business would have asked for a temporary solution, and they would have said, this is a good fit, could we potentially go here? We would have had the conversation too.
we had to pull some pieces of information, so now that we have those, we can go back to some of the other questions we had, so. I mean, that's 12 times, I mean, that's $50,000 we didn't have before, that could do something nice for the town.
Up to 50 if they stay the whole year.
Did you have a question? You could come up to the podium.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay, I thought I heard something, I'm sorry. What did you say?
Well, no,
Oh,
I was just saying.
it
up
would
to-
pay
if
for
it-
the disc golf course.
See?
All right, are we done? Can we get a motion, some sort here?
I'll move that we approve the potential rental of the police department building to Sand Valley, and the terms of which are yet to be determined.
No, can I just ask, I think in order to prepare something for you all to approve and present to Sand Valley and see if they're acceptable to it, I would need some basics. I'd need a rental fee. Not just a range, I'd like a rental fee from you. I think I'm hearing month to month, I'd probably put 30 days notice. You know, I'll add the meat to it, but I do need some of the basics.
I don't think anyone here knows what fair market value is for office space.
don't think-
Looked at office space recently for Assumption, that was somewhat, I think, smaller than what we're talking about there. I'd say the administrator's suggestion of around $4,000 a month is probably reasonable. Obviously Sand Valley can come back with a counter on that $4,000 if they wanted to. But I would say the $4,000 a month would be reasonable based upon, like I said, I just recently looked at some potential office space for Assumption, and it would have been slightly less than that, but it was also what I believe in my mind is a smaller space than what you're talking about. Plus, we're a nonprofit, so, you know, we look for cheap places. It's aside.
Thank you. That's, I think, the minimum that I need so I can build something for you all to consider at your next meeting.
All right, I'll amend my motion to include approximately $4,000 on a month-to-month basis.
Do you have other recommendations for us, Nick, or?
Not at this point. I just need the direction to draft something. I think you would all be considering and possibly approving a lease at a future meeting. I just need some direction to, number one, is it something that you're interested in exploring? And some of the guidelines that you want in there. I will put together something and we can certainly modify that, but I just want to be able to give you something that has some certainty to it, and I think the term and the fee are two basic things that I would want from you all, so I wasn't just guessing on what those terms would be.
And then at the time that we would approve, if the lease would come before us, then at the time that it would get approved, that would be the point in time if we wanted to earmark the funds that we would receive from said lease, we would do it at that time. That doesn't have to be a part of this motion.
It definitely doesn't need to be a part of this motion.
we'd also, I think it was included in the memo, I didn't hear counter to it, but that the lease would include that they would be in charge of any utilities
Yep, I've got that.
or additional fees such as your drafting of the lease agreement. Yep.
Sure.
All other expenses.
Okay, we have a motion, right?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I'm just gonna say, I think it's a bad idea on multiple levels.
Would you like to share your reasons why with us?
I think it's ignorant of the criticism the town receives on a regular basis that Sand Valley gets anything it wants.
Sand Valley's been a very good neighbor though too, so I think you should take that into account. They've donated a large sum of money for our band shell. They provided some hydrant usage over there for anybody in the town that wants to use it. And there's other things too that they've done for us, so I don't see a problem, I don't see a conflict of interest.
I look at it as a business. Any business came in, I'd make the same offer.
After all, the building is sitting there right now, we're not getting anything from it, and there's no other person that's come forward and asked for a lease agreement.
only
Because
other
it's
comment I
housing
would-
equipment that's used by our employees.
The only other comment I would make is that I would like to have further discussion later on as to what we would do if this moves forward, that we would find a place for that money that serves a valuable purpose that's of use to everyone in the community then. Because I look at it as a donation in a way that or money we didn't have before. Not a donation, but money we didn't have before. Doesn't just get rolled into the general fund.
And that would be a conversation for the
Right.
board. Yep.
Correct.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion carried. Number 14, discussion only, the Board of Review Training Opportunities and Registration.
I just had included in the packet, as a friendly reminder, the dates, because they are approaching quickly for the Board of Review training and the agenda for that. I just point this out again because we're going through that reevaluation this year, that interim market reevaluation, that we might have cases, right? And so at least one board member, it's mandatory that at least one board member goes every year, but it would be great that more, in case we had additional cases with the reevaluation this year. So it's information only. If you do select a date and you want to attend, let me know. We will register you. We'll take care of that here. And if there's multiples for a certain date, we will try and organize carpool with the town vehicle.
Well, we're
Can't we do it
losing Dan.
online?
You could do the virtual also,
Yeah.
yes. The virtual will not be recorded, it's still the same price. It's still the 45 if you do the virtual versus not, but, so just also, if you sign up for the virtual, it's not recorded, you have to attend at 6:30 PM on May 1st.
And do we have a date for the Board of Review meeting? Is sometime in June or when?
It'll be early June, but,
Yeah, we don't have a date.
yeah.
Okay.
Actually, no, it won't be early
No,
June,
no,
I'm
no.
sorry. I'm going off what we've done
Yes.
previous years, and that won't be the same.
No, because of the revals going to take longer.
Do we have a date when we're going to get the reval back? Rough idea, months?
You handed out that timeline.
Yeah, and I have it on the homepage, one
That
second.
Board of Review is gonna be in late September this year, but, and I recall Amy sending us some information earlier on that it was encouraged that because we do expect quite a few cases this year, that we all should try and attend, and with losing Dan, I'm sure he can attest to the fact that it is quite lengthy and painful training to go through. Well, Jamie and I went through it all together, the three of us. It's lengthy, but we probably, as many of us that could go, should go, because if we have cases, we really need to have a better understanding of what we're doing to either deny or approve if people are. Jackie?
It will not be just people. I've been contacted by attorneys already.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Dan? This Dan?
But if we've had training before, is there an expiration date on that training?
A year, the training lasts a year.
Oh.
It's mandatory that one person comes every year.
All right.
Yeah, so August, right now, April through June, they're doing their field data. August, notice of assessments will be mailed. September would be open book, and obviously the assessor will try to address as many of them through open book as possible. He's been very good about that in the past, taking appointments. October would be board of review. That also condenses that already pretty busy end of year, getting our paperwork in, budgeting, but we'll, not the first, we won't be the last to go through it.
It's April 22nd already, huh? That they have that training this early, huh?
Yeah, it starts, but if you were probably in a regular process, June, you'd be in
Right,
June,
right,
so.
I understand.
Any other questions? Number 15, discussion and possible action, clerk treasurer position recruitment plan with possible assistance from GovHR USA.
So I did provide notice to the town board supervisors, that Amy will be retiring this year, and June 7th, will be her retirement date. So we'll be recruiting for a new clerk treasurer. In the past, we have had GovHR help us with recruitments, both with the administrator's positions and with the clerk treasurer position. So I had just reached out to them, mostly for the reason of providing some additional exposure that the position would be available within their networks. So they did provide a recruitment and selection packet, which I included in the packet. I'm not sure that we want to go down the full scope recruitment. Again, the cost for that, for full scope recruitment is $23,500. But if they assisted us with professional outreach options, that would be $6,500, depending on if we did some additional advertising with them, they would pass that true cost on to us. So I throw that out as an option. I also included in the memo a potential timeline, because we'd like to have some overlap with the new clerk treasurer, with Amy. Obviously, the clerk treasurer position, very important to overall operations, but also has a huge responsibility with elections, taking taxes, and all of the reporting that's done for a community. So it would be great that we could have some overlap and maybe attract an individual that has some of that experience now, and would be looking to grow in their careers.
Can I get a motion?
I would just also point out, the other piece that was in the packet is the job description. Amy and I did go through that. I know we've, in the past, the boards, we've spent some time on job descriptions. So if we did proceed with the recruitment process, this would be the job description that would be included with that recruitment.
I think it's a good job description. I know that when we originally worked with the town electors and had them agree and vote, they voted on combining the position. We sought to ensure the checks and balances between the position of a clerk treasurer and a town administrator. So I think the current job description shows pretty much what we expect of that position, but spending, upwards of $25,000 or even $6,000 to recruit for that position, for a $55,000 position, I don't know if we could put out to the clerk's list, and I don't know, I think I'd like to have that discussion a little bit more. I'd like to even talk about the checks and balances between the two positions, as the town administrator has assumed more responsibilities, or some of the responsibilities of the clerk treasurer, because we need to have some checks and balances and make sure they're there. And maybe the clerk treasurer could do some HR. I don't know, we've seen a need for that as we've been growing. And I don't know, maybe we have some time to put some of that thought process together. We have a very capable, clerk treasurer right now, deputy, that could work with the TA until we maybe reevaluate that and discuss it a little bit more. Those are just my thoughts. before we even engage GovR, I mean, we've hired other department heads that have a lot of responsibility, big budgets, and we didn't engage this firm. Those are my thoughts.
Does someone want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that we engage GovHR for no more than $6,500 to help us find a replacement for our clerk treasurer.
Does the Wisconsin League of the Wisconsin League of Municipalities, as well as, or the Municipal League of, can't think of the name of it right.
Wisconsin Municipalities.
The Towns Association, the clerks list, can they not also help us recruit without charging us a fee?
They would all charge a fee for the advertisement. They wouldn't do any additional
Correct.
recruitment for us than the posting the advertisement. We're not members of the league, and I'm trying to
You
think.
get the magazine, right? Or you just get the
I just get the
subscription?
magazine. It's
I see.
$50 a year for a subscription.
Okay.
I believe they charge, so cities and villages, I believe they'll post those employment opportunities for free. I believe for towns, they will post them, certainly, but I think it comes with a fee. I don't recall what that fee was. I believe we've utilized them in the past.
We have. It's over $100, but it's not more than $200. So let's just say it's $150 to get it posted. Wisconsin Towns is really reasonable, but they do charge a minimal fee, less than $50. We would have to ask about the Wisconsin Clerks Association and the Wisconsin Treasurers Association. We do have memberships in those organizations, but I don't know if what their fees would be for posting.
We have a motion, and I will second it. Any further discussion?
Before you would take your final motion, I heard some comfort level with the position description. Does anyone want to see that position description back, or are we comfortable proceeding with the position description as included in the packet?
I would like to see some HR responsibility added to that position. Is anybody interested in discussing that?
If you're gonna modify the job description, then I wouldn't engage GovHR yet. What's the timeline on this? Like, is there pressure to get this position filled, or can we cover, because we're in the,
You have till June 7th, right?
right,
So,
for overlap?
yeah, but the hope would be to have it advertised next week, yes, because that would allow you about 3 weeks to advertise. I'm assuming that an individual will probably have to provide notice. That could be any place between 2 weeks and 30 days.
What's the terms with GovHR? If we advertise on our own and we find somebody, they're only paid on successful placement, right?
I think that's if you do the full recruitment. If we just did this option, help with them distributing and sharing with their network and help with placing advertisement, I don't think that applies. I think it does in full recruitment, but not what we would be pursuing.
Yeah, keep in mind, we are under time constraint with a full assessment coming up. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion's carried. Number 16, discussion and possible action, approval of resolution number 23, amendment to the General Personnel and Benefits Policy Manual, policy number 1.05, acceptance of and request for donations, gifts.
There is an updated policy from conversations at the last town board meeting in the packet, and I will let Nick talk for a little while.
Thank you. At your last meeting, guidance was provided as far as some of the terms that we want to put in the policy related to requests for donations and gifts. So just a couple of the points that I'd like to highlight in the proposed language. At the last meeting, we had discussed putting specifically civic community organizations in there, so you'll see that as the lead-in on number 1. You'll also see the other guideline that I was provided at the last meeting was to specifically reference that it be for programs or events that benefit the town of Rome. That's also then in number 1. Then what I did was a bit of reorganization under what you see as A1 and 2. What I did there was include that any kind of requests that come in need to be in writing regardless of the request amount. The way that it was set up before, it specifically stated that the requests need to be made in writing for the lower amount that the town administrator is authorized to approve, but it didn't have any language like that for the others. I felt like this was clear to that idea that a request should come in, it should contain a minimum amount of information, and that be regardless of the amount. And then you'll see the thresholds that existed in the policy are, the current policy, are reflected there under A1 and 2. So you'll see that's a little bit different than the policy is organized today, and that's what I did was just pulled out that, what you see as A, I pulled that out of the request section for the ones that are could be approved by the town administrator. I just put that as a lead-in for all requests that come in.
Can I get a motion?
Move to approve the amendment to the acceptance of the requests for donations and gifts policy as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Number 17, discussion and possible action, approval of resolution number 23, addition to the general personal and benefits policy manual, policy number 1.18, public property memorial placement policy.
So this policy originated out of the Parks and Recreation Committee. We've had some individuals that have asked about doing memorial placements. In our requests that we've received, those have been benches, but we thought it was an opportunity to address this larger in a larger policy in case we would get additional requests. In the packet, you'll find the policy and a proposal application that individuals would need to complete. It has been reviewed and recommended from Parks. It was reviewed at Plan Commission as a discussion-only item, and then today at CDA as a discussion-only item. Today at CDA, a good point came up, which we could easily add to the application. That Public Works should also, under staff review, should see it in case there would be long-term maintenance items that would come up as part of the memorials being placed. Just so that they would be noticed, so if they would be coming under their purview, they would also be comfortable with what that maintenance was, or long-term maintenance items would be accounted for. So, I'm not sure if Nick also just wants to speak to a little bit more about the policy itself.
Thank you. And just maybe a general note that if that were decided to make that adjustment to the application, that would be something that wouldn't necessarily need to be a part of this motion because that would be separate from the policy. We can certainly reflect that into the application. So before you is a proposed policy. It would be slotted under section 1. So it'd be 1.18 relating to the public property and memorial placement. It sets forth application procedures, really with the intention to maintain consistency with the application as they come in, and also the approval and criteria that are considered. And so we have, I believe, discussed this at a number of committees and received good feedback as far as things to adjust. But really the goal here is to set in place a consistent approach to applications that are received, criteria that you'll see on the second page that are considered in the potential approval. And then I would just point out that the Plan Commission or Parks are involved depending on where the request is being made. So where that placement would be is either going to involve Parks or Plan Commission, and the ultimate approval or final approval would be the town board.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the addition to the general personnel and benefits policy manual, paragraph 1.18, for the draft resolution here that's there with the addition of a review on the application for, by Public Works for long-term maintenance implications.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Number 18, discussion of possible action, approval of a recreational license agreement with the School District of Nacusa regarding the use of 1540 Alpine Drive, commonly referred to as Chester School Forest, for the development of a disc golf course.
Great. So again, originated out of the Parks and Rec Committee. We've been having a conversation with the Nacusa School District about the land that they own here in the town of Rome, about the potential of developing a disc golf course there. The first part of that would be this recreational license agreement. I'll let Nick talk to the agreement itself, but I would just let you know that the school district has reviewed this agreement. While they haven't taken formal action, we'll take formal action first. In their review of it, any comments or changes that they had suggested are incorporated into the document that you see this evening.
Thank you. So just a couple of highlights to the agreement. It is a license agreement. What that means is it's a non-exclusive use of the property, and you'll see under on page 2 under number 3, that use is for development and maintenance of a disc golf course and trail development. You'll see a term in number 2 of 20 years with 10-year renewals. So it is a relatively long-term license agreement with some provisions as far as what notice is needed to terminate or to extend the agreement. So the agreement does automatically renew unless it's terminated with 120 days prior notice. You'll see under number 4 of page 3 or page 2 and 3 the town's obligations. So the town is agreeing with this agreement to pay all costs associated with the planning and installation of that disc golf course, as well as restoring the existing gravel driveway and parking lot areas, and then also paying for the establishment of that of the trail area. I would say the rest of this does contemplate the idea that that the town and the school district would be working together. A good example of that being identification directional signs that being provided to them, to the school district for review. And really a number of the provisions in here are anticipating the same. Just so the school district has some review and notice of the improvements that are being made and the use of the property.
Is there an estimated cost to establish? I mean, a disc golf course isn't overly complex, but obviously we're going to be cutting trails in and things.
There isn't an overall cost. The next phase of the project after we would get through this is to put out an RFP for design. Designers have either contacted us or we've made contact with them, and we would put together that proposal and we would ask for that as what the design would cost and what they anticipate an overall construction would cost would be.
Yeah.
Then we'll take it that next
The
step.
cost of the design is really going to be minimal, probably be around $1,100, which is our first blush at it that we've had. A couple people even asking to do it for free.
But regardless, and it's a good point that was made and a good segue to just a general statement, this agreement gives us the ability to use that property for the 2 uses. It doesn't obligate us to put the disc golf course on or cut in trails. it gives us the ability to do that. So phase two, this gives us the, really the segue then to start to price this out and figure out what the scope of that actually would look like.
So if there are any costs throughout this project, can't those be covered by Visit Rome?
Potentially,
Yeah,
we
there
could
can be
write a grant.
grants
Yeah.
available to us. I think the biggest cost is going to be clearing the forest and getting rid of all the lash and stuff that's there. When, you know, we're not going to clear the whole forest, but we're going to have trails cut through, so that's going to be the major expense.
I think Legacy Foundation would be a really good source for this one. I mean, for what they do out there.
Yeah, and I think after the last couple storms we have, it's probably just taking the ones out that are down already. That's probably just the movement of those rather than even cutting more. Either way, it's a nice piece of property that we could be utilizing better.
I move approval of the recreational license agreement with the school district and the CUSA regarding the use of, at 1540 Alpine Drive, commonly referred to as the Chester School Forest, for potential development of a disc golf course and trails.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Number 19, discussion and possible action. Revised 2023 strategic plan update timeline and selection of directional and methods phase meeting dates.
Great. I hope everybody brought their calendars with them. So after we had put together that original timeline, there was some concern about the dates and that some individuals would not be able to make it. Obviously, we would like as many people to participate as possible from the board and the staff. We'd like the full board to be at both of those half-day training sessions. So I just discussed with Bill, if we could slightly adjust the timeline, you'll see that revised timeline as part of the packet. We would still start with our listening session on April 18th. Then we would allow for some time for board discussion with Bill. We'd move to that public survey. We do the individual virtual meetings, and I've indicated on the front who those individuals were that we had previously discussed. And then we'd have that half-day directional in June and half-day methods phase in July, with a final report coming back August. I would hope early August, but so it spreads out our timeline a little bit more, but probably provides some additional time to get input on the overall plan. So as I put in the memo, it would be great if we could select those June and July dates, so we could have them on individuals' calendars, and we could communicate that back with Bill also, so he could hold it on his schedule. I did just include in the packet too, just for everybody's information, the email that went out to our business license listserv, and then additional stakeholders within Adams County, like the county manager, Derek at Adams County Economic Development, if they also wanted to join the listening session.
I'd be more than happy to participate in the virtual interview, but I don't think it'd be appropriate for me to participate in the rest.
Yep, fair.
How long are those virtual interviews?
Less than 45 minutes.
45 minutes I can squeeze out 45 minutes on a given day.
That's what we're talking about right now.
Oh,
And
yeah, proposed dates?
yeah, well, I can throw a date out to start if we went early June. So June 1st would be the board meeting. So June 8th would be the second Thursday. If we did either in the morning or the afternoon.
What date?
I'm throwing out June 8th. I wouldn't type it yet, just in case.
Okay. We can do afternoon.
June 8th in the afternoon. Does that work for everyone?
School calendar.
What day of the week is that?
It's a Thursday.
like Fridays, but.
Fridays and Mondays are always easiest.
Whoops, that's July.
Do we want to, well,
Yes.
we would prefer not Friday, because in the summer, we'd have staff that are on 410s.
Oh, no.
That's why I prefer Fridays. No, no, I'm fine with June 8th.
You have a time in the afternoon?
Noon to 4. I'd ask you to hold noon to 4.
I'm good for that.
Okay.
And then we'd have town board at 5.
No, it'd be your in-between weeks, so you'd
Oh,
have
that's right, second,
Yep.
that's right, this is the
Yep.
second Thursday, okay.
town board, strategic plan, town board.
I'm good with June 8th.
Okay. Then if we go, let's just assume we would still have a meeting on July 6th. The holiday is the day before the 5th. It would just be, like, town hall would just be closed, no, the 4th. OMG.
Let's not do July 6th.
Okay.
Let's not do July 6th.
Well, we,
Too much is usually going on around that holiday. You're talking 4 hours on July 6th, correct?
yes.
Yeah.
July 13th?
July 13th would be an option. It wouldn't have to stay a Thursday if you wanted to, if Monday, July 10th would be better, that could also be an option.
That would be nice.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Jackie, does that work?
10th works, but not the 13th? Okay, so July 10th.
Morning or afternoon?
Um,
We do morning or?
I'm showing right now, it's not confirmed, and it may not occur, but there would, a regular schedule would be police and fire commission would be that morning. But at 9, but we could go mid-morning, right? So if you wanted to go 10 and go over the noon hour. Yes, I will bring lunch.
10 until noon or 1 o'clock, something like that?
So,
10 to 2.
2.
yeah, 10 to 2.
I'll make brownies.
Virtual sessions?
No, these are half-day in-person strategic planning.
Okay,
Yep,
good. I put the right thing.
yep,
There was nothing on June 1st though. Why did I write down June 1st?
because the board meets
Oh.
June 1st.
All right, but we're not doing it right.
So June 8th, noon to 4 p.m., July 10th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Great.
And we have nothing between April 18th and June 8th. Okay.
Individual meetings.
That, which she hasn't given us yet.
Yep, so individual meetings are gonna be May 3rd through May 16th. You'll actually be, Bill's individual, will reach out to you to schedule those. And then in between that time, we'll be doing the listening session, some conversation with Bill, and then that public, survey.
Nick, is this an actionable item, or, I mean, they just come in general agreement?
Yeah, I don't think that there's any action to be
Good.
taken on this, other than just a consensus on dates that work.
Yeah.
It's just easier to do it when we have you all in the room together.
All right. Anything else on 20?
So are we going to select an
19.
August date too then while we're at it or not?
No, because that will be at a regular town board meeting.
Okay.
Yep, so that'll either be the first or third Thursday.
Moving on. Number 20, discussion of possible action, request from 14 Mile Watershed Alliance for co-sponsorship of the State of Our Lakes event to be held on June 10th, 2023.
So there is a letter in your packet from Dave Trevaux requesting sponsorship. There is not an amount in that letter. I did reach out to Dave and just asked what would the sponsorship cover and what would the amount be. I know Phil is here in the audience too if there's additional questions. Dave said it would be to cover the expense of the overall expense of food and advertising, essentially divided in half. So they would be looking for $1,100 for that sponsorship to cover those costs. Their food costs may be slightly less if they're able to get donations from the Wisconsin Potato and Vegetable Growers and for Quick Trip. that would potentially come down, but the request would be for $1,100. The 2 previous years, the town sponsorship has been $1,000 that we have provided.
Do we take that out of our community can fund?
We would. It's not a separate budgeted item. It would come out of the community.
How much do we have in there right now?
So we don't have the carry forward done yet for the year, so what I give you is an estimate,
That's fine.
but approximately $14,000 in the community can fund. But again, that's with a estimated on that carry forward at the end of the year.
I make a motion to co-sponsor the State of Our Lakes event for an amount of $1,100.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Motion carried. 21, discussion and possible action, request from Adams County Crime Stoppers for a donation to the organization.
Again, there was a memo in your packet. We have provided a donation to Crime Stoppers in the past. It does cover all of Adams County. And Mike Baker, who's also the chair of our Police and Fire Commission, is the chair of the Adams County Crime Stoppers. In the past, our donation amount has been $100, but there was not a number requested in the letter for this evening. I did ask Mr. Baker what he would like to receive as a donation, and he said whatever the board feels he would welcome.
What are they using it for anything specific this year? I know in the past they've updated their benches and done things like that. Are they using it for anything specific?
He did not provide a specific project, no.
I'll move that we donate $100 to the Adams County Crime Stoppers.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. 22, next agenda items.
I had one here, I think. Yes, I have a question. We had one from the last meeting. Dan Goman was actually the chair of that meeting. We had one regarding the discussion on the water utility rates. And we had an agreement or a consensus that we would like a better understanding of those rates. I'd like that on the next agenda, so that we can have that information brought back, so we have a better understanding of that.
I know that obviously there was an email that went to you
Right.
Chad.
from Chad, from our director. Have had a follow-up conversation at this moment. He had said if requested, but I will ask again when we can put something together. I don't know that it will be for the next meeting because of the annual meeting, but we will get it on a future agenda shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Something.
The rental agreement is another one that we'll have back at the next meeting.
Oh, for the police building? You're saying for the 18th?
Yes, I can have a draft ready for you for the 18th.
Okay, 23, next meeting date and time.
So again, we will be off schedule. The next meeting date and time will be April 18th. We will have the listening session from 4 to 6. At 6 o'clock, we'll have the annual meeting. The current board runs the annual meeting. The new board would run the regular scheduled board meeting to follow. So that will be a long evening, but we will get lots accomplished. So Tuesday, April 18th.
And so we won't have a meeting on Thursday then, the 20th?
We would not have a meeting on the 20th.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Meeting
Any,
adjourned,
meeting is adjourned, yes.
6:39 PM.